Greetings, this is Taylor Sharp with TMS Software LLC, and this is about audits, deletes, and history. This is a review of a presentation that was given at the FileMaker Pro Users Group in Dallas, Texas on June 7th, 2019. And we will be reviewing what all it takes to do an audit, history, and deletes within FileMaker software. Okay, the user group can be reached if you'd like more information about them at www.fmpug.dallas.com, or you can find out more about TMS software at www.tms.us. Audits are something that are required sometimes, or just a matter of the developer needing to know when changes are being made and who's deleting or changing things. They can be driven by company policy, or they can be regulatorily required or statutorily required. So there are various reasons that we might want to keep track of changes and deletes and things like that within a solution. In the past, there have been a number of ways that this could be achieved within FileMaker, so this is nothing new, and a number of them involved plugins in the past, as you can see here. And there was even one solution for tracking changes, but not deletes, but changes by Excelsis using custom functions. So it was a recursive custom function to keep track of changes that were made. So that was a interesting and good way to take care of things without needing a plugin. FileMaker has some caveats that really apply to any auditing system, that whenever you add an auditing system on top of whatever you have, it's going to diminish your performance. So be aware and plan to understand that any of these activities do slow your system down to a degree. They probably won't slow them down a lot, but it's one of the things to keep track of, and it will also make your databases bigger. So FileMaker does have the tools that let us get that done. So first of all, one of the things that we have to deal with are deletes. So not just only changes, but if someone's going to delete something, how do we know if someone deletes it? Well, obviously if anybody can delete something, as soon as it's deleted, it's gone. There isn't getting it back other than going to backups or anything, but when it's deleted, it is deleted. So what you have to do is you have to work through the security system to change the privileges of all users except for the full access developers to disallow any deletes, and force the users that if they do need to delete something, that they use a script that has full access ability to go through and delete whatever has been requested to be deleted. So in other words, all deletes are done through a scripting process that then takes those deletes and stores them over in a deletes table. That way you have a table of all your deletes and can go back and see what was deleted, and you do it into a single field. You don't want to have to mirror all your tables. You just create a deletes table that has a single field that keeps track of everything that is being deleted. And here is an example of a deletes table, and this is kind of the old way I used to do it. You can keep track of things however you want, but this is kind of an XML way that had the field name and then the field value of whatever was being deleted. Later on, we've moved on to, now that FileMaker has fully embraced JSON, I have the deletes table now working to store everything in JSON format. That way it works with all the tools that we have out there, but it basically does the same thing, just stores every field and the corresponding value when you do a delete, so that you can see what it was at the time of the delete, in addition to who made that delete. And then you can use that to either backtrack things or to write a script that would roll back values to a previous one if you would like to do that. Here is the example of where we have a deletes button. So if you're going to run a delete, we have a script to do the deletes. This is the delete record script, and it will go through and put all of that JSON and everything that we looked at before together for you. So this is all done. All you have to do is open this up and make use of it. and right up front it gives you the example of what you would put in the script parameter of a button or other script that you want to make a delete. And so in the case of the situation that we have over here, we have a delete button. If we go to our layout mode, we can click on the button. We can come up and see it runs the delete record script that we just looked at, and then it puts a script parameter in here that we showed here that basically lists the only thing that you have to change in each of these things is what is the table occurrence and primary key field. So you basically come over here and double click on your primary key field to put it in this script parameter, and you're good to go. It'll evaluate what that value is if you're in that same context right here, and delete that record. So that's all you have to do to arrange for deletes to be done. Be aware that this is a deletes thing that is designed to work using the base elements plugin on a FileMaker server or Monkey Bread software plugin. You can have either on there and it will work, but it has to be hosted on the server because the actual delete is done with a SQL delete, not a FileMaker delete. So be aware of that. Getting back to where we were at here. Okay, now when we have audits, we want to be able to track changes. So every time someone is making a change to a record, we want to be able to do things. And of course, you know, when script triggers came along, we looked at, you know, hey, you enter a field, so you do set a value, find out what it is, then the exit field, if it's different, then you store it somewhere to show that a change was made. Well, script triggers are a poor way to do things because you can bypass them by just creating another layout of the same table and doing things without using the original layout. So we really don't want to use script triggers. We want to do things by defining things within a field. And so fields need to be triggered in the same way that the user interface that a script trigger works to keep track of things, and they're triggered by the modification timestamp. So whatever field you have to have modification timestamp field to trigger FileMaker's history or audit field to calculate what changes are being made. Over here on the right are the default fields that FileMaker makes when you create a new table, which are fine and dandy. I have some that I've been using in the past and continue to use just because that is what I'm used to use, but it's basically works the same. Both of them have a modification timestamp, and that way that will trigger a calculation field to keep track of the history. So we can take a look real quick at an example of something where we have deleted records using this script. So we'll look at the deleted record first. So here's the modified record here first. And so here's where we have made some changes, and it's all stored in JSON. This has two changes. So here is the first change, and then here is the second change. And what it does is every time you make a change to a record, it appends to this JSON the next change. All the changes are actually in here where we have the modified fields. It tells you what the field is and what the new value is. And this is where everything with the main pertinence of what the changes is. And then outside of it, we have fields here that give some context of the record, the operating system, who did it, what their IP is, what layout they were in when they did it, things like that. If a script was running, what is the script that was running? So all of those things get recorded here and are very useful to a developer for going back to look to see what changes are being made and why. For example, are you trying to figure out, is someone accidentally changing something with a script, a rogue script, or were they doing it and you know, they were doing it in a particular layout or something like that? And this will give a lot of that information for you, and it will also give you the full rollback abilities if you need to do that. All of that is done in a calculation that I will show you right here. This is the heavy lifting part of the audit things. We create an audit history field that's a calculated value that has this unchecked, the do not replace existing value in a field, and then I turn prohibit modification of value on. so that you can't change it by accident. And then this is the calculation that is run that stores those changes that we just saw in JSON. This is the part that you have to modify. Everything else is already written for you right there, so you just make use of it. You will notice that it makes use of the while function, which is a FileMaker 18 only feature, so you must have at least FileMaker 18 to be able to use this audit history tool. However, this is the edit section that you do for, you will have to put this calculation field in every table in your solution to keep track of all changes that are going on in your solution. There may be tables that you don't need to do audits on, like maybe of a table of list of the states of the United States or something that's, doesn't need it. But all pertinent tables would need this calculation in it. And when you come in here, there are a couple of variables that you're going to basically need to set. One of them is, how many saves you want to change. If you set this at 0, it records all saves unlimited in that history field. But it may be that you only want to keep the last, 10 saves or 50 saves or 500 saves. Whatever you want to set it at, you can tell it to only, make the certain number of saves. And the main reason that someone may do this is they don't want your log files to get super huge, so you might say don't save any more than the last 100 changes. So you can change that right there. Next of all, when you're in here, you have to identify what is your primary key. In this case, it's a UUID field. And then we have to say there is another option here. It says log full access changes. This is a 1. If it means 1, that means whenever the full user access people make changes, it will log their changes. If you change this to 0, you can have it can not record changes done by full user access. And it may be that you run some evening batch scripts every night that you want to run, and you don't want those changes logged every time it's run on that schedule script under full user access or something. So that's where you can change that off and on. As mentioned before, everything is based upon being triggered by a timestamp for when a change is made to the field, as well as the get modified fields function. You have to provide that field name here for each table that you're in, whatever the modification timestamp field is, and that'll know to evaluate that. Then we also have our audit history field, which is what we're making this calculation in, so we need to know what is the name of that audit history field. And then we have some fields down here that a variable called omit fields that you can decide that, hey, if I'm keeping track of changes, there's certain things I don't need to keep track of every time a change is made. I don't need maybe some of the auto enter things like modification by, timestamp, created by, etc. like that, because that's still kept in the outside. It's not in the modified fields in the JSON that we look at, in other words. So you can list any fields here, and they may be global fields, or I don't know, anything that you don't want to show up here. There might be some calculation fields that you want to list in here that you don't want to keep track of every time there is a change. So feel free to put any omitted fields that you don't want in there. But otherwise, it's going to track everything that you don't put in there just by making the changes you have here. And I will mention one other thing. It is also important that you have this box unchecked to make sure that it'll work. Okay, so that's our audit history field that will create a history log that you can track everything as you're making changes. And then of course we've gone over the delete script, so you are good for making deletes, and between those two things you can implement a full audit history system for your FileMaker solution. So we hope you have enjoyed this. This solution is provided free of charge. It's a freeware solution that's released to the FileMaker community through the FMPUG FileMaker user group in Dallas, Texas, and TMS Software LLC. Please give us credit if you make use of it, but there is no charge for the software. However, if you do need some help implementing it, TMS software is available for consulting to help implement on your system if you so desire some assistance. If you happen to be in the Dallas area on the first Friday of the month, join the FM Pug lunch meeting. We would love to see you then. It's been fun having you here. I hope you've learned something and can make use of this system. Feel free to give us some feedback. Thank you. Bye-bye.